Hi, this is Kerry Artag with Wicked Stocks, bringing you an individual stock pick in Advanced Micro Devices, otherwise known as AMD. I did record this video, by the way, on Wednesday, January 17th, 2024. Let's segue to the basic fundamentals, courtesy of Yahoo Finance. You can see it's certainly a large cap corporation. If you want to read any deeper into this, feel free to freeze frame over this right now. But I'm going to segue to the weekly bar chart. Same weekly bar chart throughout. And I'm going to backtrack a little bit because the last AMD video analysis we put out was September of last year, about 4 or 5 months ago. And during that, or in that video, if you go back and watch it, you'll see that we showed that this rising 2/3 speed line, we were about a month away from actually testing it when we put the video out. It was a late September video. It was in late October that we actually tested this rising 2/3 speed line, in which I'd mentioned could contain selling through the rest of the year, as it did. I also mentioned in the very same video that coming off of that speed line, our next trouble spot to the upside, and also meaningful buy signal on strength, would be a settlement above that descending channel top, which the market did several weeks later. After testing the 2/3 speed line, which I mentioned could contain selling through the rest of the year, 3 weeks later we closed above the descending channel top, which was a go with buy signal on strength. And so I'll just leave it at that. And what we're actually approaching now is a rising channel top. That is at 157.23 this week, the week of Tuesday, January 16th, rising 78 cents a week. Yes, we've pushed through this formation so far this week, but by a narrow degree. This is still an area. If you are long AMD, you can consider exiting that long position, taking good profits. This is also an area where we could fall away for the next 3 to 5 months. I'll get to that in a moment. But given the fact that we are presently above this channel top at 157.23, I should just continue with what if. What if we do close this week above 157.23? Well, that would need to be by a 1% margin, truth be told. And the 1% violation of the 157.23 channel top this week is at 158.80. So if we settle Friday at 158.80 or higher, then this rally that we've seen, off of that October low, it just merely continues to this long-term channel top that is about 6 years in the making. It goes back to the 2018 low at 186.06. becomes our next, I'm going to say, 2 to 3 month objective. And it could happen inside of 2 months. It could potentially be a 3 to 5 week blast. I would expect aggressive follow-through buying if we were to close this week above the 157.23 formation by a 1% margin. Once again, that channel top is rising 78 cents a week, so you can monitor its location through time. Now, if we ease back and settle the week at or below 157.23. This is a market that is merely testing longer-term resistance and is prone to falling away. But for right now, I just want to leave you with this image at this point in time in the video, that if we close above 157.23 at the end of this week, rising 78 cents a week, and that needs to be by a 1% margin of 158.80, I'm expecting the 186.06 6-year channel top rising 19 cents a week as our next 2 to 3 month objective, where we could actually place an annual high and fall away from 186.06 through the balance of the year. There would, of course, be a significant long-term buy signal if we were to close above 186.06. I'm not going to go there just yet. I will, though, if we approach 186.06 over the next few months. And once again, it is expected over the next 2 to 3 months, if we settle this week, Friday, above 157.23 by the required 1% margin. Until then, we may be merely testing long-term resistance. In fact, that's the way I want to frame this, that we're merely testing a long-term resistance level at 157.23. This is an area where you can exit a long position and consider going short. Now, if we close the week at or below 157.23, exiting a long position and playing the short side is the recommended approach until proven otherwise. The proven otherwise would be, of course, a weekly settlement above the 157.23 channel top. what I can expect if we close this week at or below 157.23. I can't say expect, but what I think is quite possible and what I think you can prepare for. In other words, I think you can set a trade for this is either A, playing the short side, setting, shorting AMD outright as a stock, and then buying back at the channel bottom at 102.56, presumably about 3 to 5 months later. Or you could actually reach for, 105 strike out of the money puts that don't expire for at least 6 months. I'd probably go a year out on that because it could take the better part of 6 months for that to fully play out. And once again, the 102.56 channel bottom is rising at 78 cents a week and can absorb selling pressures on a quarterly basis, quite possibly by that point in time through the rest of the year. Because if you give this 3 to 5 months to play out to the downside, we're now, we could be in the middle of the year anyway. By which point we could bottom out through the balance of 24 at 102.56. On the way down, for those of you who like to trade the nearer term approach, and I would call this kind of the 3 to 5 week, a 5 to 8 week swing trade to the downside, that if we settle the week, Friday at or below 157.23, this newly formed rising 1/3 speed line at 124.70 is considered, let's just call it a 2 to 3 month objective, but I really think it could be inside of 2 months before falling to 124.70. A rising 1/3 speed line that is trend defining by one definition, rising $1.06 a week and able to contain monthly, possibly quarterly selling pressures when tested. From there, we could round back up to the 157.23 channel top within several months of testing 124.70. 124.70 is by early March also converging with that June 23 high of 132.83. So you could also say that over the next several months, we fall back to the 132.83 June 23 high. And if you play the short side, you can take profits there. You can trade both sides of the market here. You can also buy 132.83 down to 124.70 or wherever that speed line is. But I just wanted to note once again that longer term, that is to say over the next 3 to 5 months potentially, it could take a little longer depending on how the market treats that 124.70 to 132.83 region, which is narrowing weekly. But just longer term, later this year, we could fall all the way back to the 102.56 channel bottom, where we could bottom out really through the rest of the year. So we are at an important pivot point for the market as we move through the rest of the first quarter and into the second. Either A, closing above 159.70 and continuing onward and upward to 186.06 and rising, or B, we are presently forming a top here. And where we settle for the week itself, we'll have a lot to say about that. Don't forget that 1% threshold above 157.23, which is a 158.80 settlement or higher on Friday, does indicate the mid to upper 180s over the next several months. Until then, this is a market that can be sold, anticipating the lower 130s over the next few months and possibly into the lower 100 handle, the low 102, 103, 104 region as we move into later year. I'm going to leave it at that for this particular Wicked Stocks video analysis on AMD. You have a great day.